Hey y'all, thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Worlds of Country podcast. I'm your host, Andrew. On today's episode, I'm joined by Morgan Johnston to talk all about her musical journey and some of her new releases. It was a really great conversation. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Talk to you guys on the other side. Hey Morgan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. What have you been up to lately?
Oh, just putting out music, and I've been in the studio trying to do some more songs here for next year. And so, yeah, lots of that, lots of planned shows and writing. Can you hear me?
Now I got you. You cut out there.
Oh, where did you
Yeah.
lose me?
Playing shows was the last thing I heard, and then
Oh,
you were continuing,
okay.
but it
Sorry
cut
about
out.
that. Yeah, I was just saying I've been writing a lot and playing shows and putting out music and trying to keep up with everything.
So you've been on like a little bit of like a release bender lately. I kind of want to go through the three new singles that you put out, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with the latest one. Don't Say I Didn't Warn You. So if you could sort of tell us the story behind that one and how it came together.
So I wrote that song a couple of years ago with Chelsea Summers and Joe Towns, and basically I had shown up to the right. I had glass in my hands from picking up a bottle of champagne that I had put in the freezer, and it had exploded. So I was cleaning that up all morning. I show up to the right, kind of all over the place. And they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I put champagne in the freezer." And they're like, "Morgan, how do you not know you can't do that?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I learned my lesson today." So that's kind of how the song got started, about just how I'm a little bit of a hot mess. And it was somewhere in the room that morning, I was like, "Oh, well, don't say I didn't warn you." And they were like, "Okay, I guess that's what we're writing today." So that's where the song came from.
All it took was a champagne explosion, and then off to the races.
Exactly.
So then before that you put out After Me, which let's go through that one too.
Yeah, so I wrote that song with Chris McKenna, Chase McDaniel, and Lydia Dahl, and it was all about, I guess, just that we've all been through a situation where maybe someone has left and they go on to be a better person, which is great, and we're always happy for them. But it's kind of hard to see them give away versions of themselves they were never able to give you to other people, or to just move on and like be better. And so I think there's a sweetness to the song, and then also just like a bittersweet, sad side. But it's one of my favorites, and it actually just got added to my hometown country radio station. So I'm very, very proud of it.
So yeah, I was gonna ask you about the radio thing later on. What was it like to sort of hear yourself on the radio now?
I mean, it was a very, very cool experience. I was just very honored and humbled to, you know, be kind of get that experience and that opportunity. Um, yeah, it was I'm so thankful. It was very, very cool.
So then before that you put out The End, which was sort of the beginning of this little 2-month bender you've been on.
Yeah, so I put out The End. It was ironically the beginning of the whole project. And I kind of did that on purpose. It's very much a lighthearted. It's the first song I ever put out. And I love the honesty behind it, that it's, kind of plays into the aspect of love, not always just being, you're not always 100% sure. There's like a nervousness factor to it. When you are sure, there's a nervousness factor. And so I really liked that about the song, and it was the first kind of love song I ever put out.
So what was it like to sort of step in the shoes of writing a love song as opposed to the sad stuff that you usually sort of lean towards?
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, I do write a lot of love songs. I just don't connect with them enough to put them out. So it wasn't necessarily different to write, but it was definitely different to release because it just had such a happier tone to it. I don't think people were expecting it.
So what sort of separated this love song from all the other love songs that you've written?
Like I was kind of saying earlier, I think I don't do really well with super like bubblegum type ideas. So I think that I really liked the serious note that this added, of just being like, the flirtatiousness, but also the, oh my gosh, this is it, the nervousness factor. So I think that's what separated it from the other love songs for me.
Yeah, the nerves kind of kick in when you realize that it's real more so than anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you think they shouldn't be there, that's when they come.
Yep.
So, what would you say have been some of the bigger lessons that you've learned along this musical journey that you've been on?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say, regardless of where I end up in life, the music industry has really taught me like resilience and consistency, and that if you put your mind to something, that you can basically do anything. Um, and I think that I've learned so many lessons. I'd have to like really sit down and think about it because there's just so many that I've learned. But I would say resilience is one of the biggest things that I've learned in this industry. And honestly, just like staying super close to who I am. And I think that no matter what industry you're in, no matter what you do, you have to bring in an aspect of like, what do I offer the world that literally nobody else can offer because they're not me? And so I've really learned how to get close to that. And I think that can kind of take me or be important to me anywhere in life.
Yeah, as difficult and as scary as it might be to sort of be different, if you don't lean into what makes you unique, you sort of just start to blend in with everyone else. And what exactly is it that separates you from them if that's what you end up doing?
I'm sorry, you cut out in the last
Oh,
part. I'm
no
so
worries.
sorry.
Where was I up to?
What's that?
Where was I up to when I cut out?
Oh, when you said anyone else was the last thing I heard.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So basically, if you were mentioning about sort of leaning into what makes you sort of different than everyone else. So if you don't lean into that, you sort of start to blend in with everyone else. And in that case, what
Oh,
what what exactly is it that separates you?
absolutely. I think that if you don't stay close to that, you can get lost in translation with everyone else. I think that for me, it's just more, not that I'm necessarily better or like different than people in that sense, but just that I have a story to tell that nobody else can see it from the perspective that I see it, just like I can't see it from their perspective because I haven't lived that specific journey. So I think it's less about being like, I have this that this person doesn't. It's not that. It's, I have a story that is uniquely mine, that it's my job to tell it and relate to other people. And nobody can tell that story because it is completely mine. And that's kind of what I stay close to. And I don't think anyone else could tell it the way that I do. And then I also don't think that I could tell it the way that anyone else does because I haven't experienced their life the way that they have. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of the
Yeah,
way that
that
I look at
definitely
it.
makes sense. Yeah. So how difficult was it to sort of lean into your story as opposed to sort of trying to blend in?
I think it's way easier. I think it's really the only thing I know how to do because it takes a lot more effort to try to be someone you're not than just be
Yeah.
authentically who you are.
Yeah. But it's also scarier to try to be yourself because if they don't like you for who you're not, then at least it's not who you really are that they
That's
don't like.
very true. If someone doesn't like you for someone who you aren't, you're like, okay, well, I'm not, this isn't who I am.
I'll try to be
Um,
someone else tomorrow.
yeah. And then there's, of course, that factor of like always trying to be the best person that you can be. Like being a good person outside of music too is very, very, very important to me. And just being good to people. And, I'm super passionate about separating who you are as a person from your career, even though they do kind of blend in.
How difficult has that been for you to sort of keep your lives sort of as separate as possible?
I mean, it's hard. It's something I like have to consciously focus on because it's really hard to not get your worth wrapped up in with like how you're doing, So I'm always telling myself, like, doesn't matter if I never make it, I'm still a good person. I'm still all of those things. So, yeah, it's definitely hard. It's a conversation I have with myself pretty often.
Especially these days with sort of how easy it is to track where you're up to with your progress in terms of
Totally.
your
There's like
career.
actual
It's so
numbers.
much harder to sort of divorce the two.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
How do you sort of, I guess, try to separate them? And when you sort of feel them bleeding into each other, is there something you do to sort of make sure that the split stays there?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of it is just like having really good friends and bouncing the feelings off of people and being honest with myself and keeping myself in check and like I meditate. um I journal a lot. I manifest. So I feel like I'm pretty in tune with how I'm feeling. I doesn't mean I can like correct it right away, but I think it takes me a couple days and I start to get back on track. Like, okay, you know, this isn't that big of a deal. I'm reminding myself that I'm still a human, outside of all of these things that has a full life.
It's so easy to sort of tie your worth to one small aspect that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really, I guess, mean much at the end of the day.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all just like on this big rock spinning, like
Yeah.
making things up as we go and doing shit that doesn't matter half the time.
And none of us know what we're doing.
No, none of us know what we're doing. None of us do.
Some of us pretend better than others, but
Yes. Hey, fake it till you make it in some
yeah.
aspects, but
Yeah. So you mentioned before about the need to be resilient. Was that something that you sort of learned the hard way? Did you sort of go into this with this sort of naive idea that you were gonna sort of make it right away, or did you always sort of know that it was gonna be a struggle of some sort?
yeah, I think I came into it with like the complete opposite idea of like, oh, I could never actually make it, but this is fun, so I'm gonna do it for now. Like when I first moved here, I was like, oh, I'm young. I really enjoy doing this. Like it's crazy to think that I'd ever play like stadiums or arenas or anything like that or be on the radio, but I really enjoy it. And so I'm just gonna do it and see what happens. And I think that I actually thought that I was like not super confident. I was like, I'm just doing this because I love it. Um, and then as I started to just build a little momentum, I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe I can do this. And I just kind of built confidence over time. And, maybe that's why it's easier for me to just be like, I do this because I love it. But yeah, I guess that's kind of how it came about.
So how did you sort of build that confidence up over time?
I think just doing it and then seeing results, obviously I've also done it and seen not results. But I think just doing it, getting feedback from people who are like, I love this song and people sending it to you and telling you they listen to it to like feel better or they listen to it because they relate. I think all those little things help build your confidence. And then like seeing songs do well or get playlisted is really cool. It really helps build your morale.
So what is sort of like your ultimate goal, if you had to say, with what you want your music to mean to people?
I think at the end of the day, my ultimate goal is like human connection. I've always been a big person who doesn't I just hate like the word shame. I think that people are filled with a lot of shame about things that they've been through in life or they're feeling confused and lost. And I think that if I can provide any sort of like courage to be open about things that I've been through, I hope that people can listen to that and relate and feel like, oh, well, if she's felt that way, then maybe I'm not crazy for feeling that way. And so I think that is a huge part of it. And then another aspect is just like I love words. So I think that's the ultimate goal for me, is to like feel like I'm a good member of society, and I feel productive by taking these words and putting them together in a creative way that makes me feel fulfilled too. So I'm fulfilled, other people are fulfilled. It's like a win-win.
Win-win. You mentioned about the human connection aspect, and it's so crazy how music has sort of this power that few things have to sort of make people feel, I guess, less alone in the grand scheme of things.
Yes, absolutely. It does. I think that music in general is just like such a healing thing for people. And I feel really honored that I can kind of be a small part of that.
So for the people out there that haven't heard your music before, how would you describe your style, I guess?
I would say I really love like kind of profound, different ideas. The song I'm going to put out next is called Circle of Love, and it's the perspective is just very it's interesting. It's about looking at the grand scheme of life and how we've all loved someone, and someday maybe there'll be somebody else's, and that's okay, because that's just the circle of love, and that's the way that it works, and how we end up with the person we're meant to end up with. But I would say if I had to take some words, it would be like dreamy, profound, sometimes sad, and then also bold or um, quirky, I'd say.
So what was the process sort of like of finding your voice as an artist?
Well, I think I'm still going through it, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's not like a straight shot and like you just start and then you end and you're like, okay, I found it. I think that people grow and change and evolve. And as we do, probably our voice and what we want to say and how we sound saying it changes. I don't know. I don't think I've necessarily found exactly what it is yet about me and my music that is going to like that I can put this like solid stamp on yet. But I sure hope that I get there someday, or I'm either just going to come to terms with, like I said, we're just always growing and changing, and um, I may never just be at the very end of it, if that makes sense.
Well, the nature of humanity is that we're all always evolving, so it makes sense that
Exactly.
music would be the same way.
Totally.
Yeah, because and also doing the same thing over and over again gets boring. So
Exactly. And you live longer and then you have more experiences, and so
so what has it been like for you to sort of embrace the more social media driven aspects of the industry that are there today?
um it's been hard. I'm really trying super hard and learning how to navigate the social media world and like create interesting videos to go with my songs. It's been hard, but I think I've gotten better at it. But overall, it's definitely been like an adjustment.
It sort of goes back to that whole worth thing, is because there's this idea now that if something isn't viral, that basically it has no worth. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
and I really try to separate to like, okay, just because a song doesn't do well on social media doesn't make it a bad song.
Yeah, because it's so easy to sort of get wrapped up in that world, like we were talking about before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what's next for you?
So I have Circle of Love coming out on September 23rd. And then after that, I have the whole project coming out in October. And after that, I will take a little break at the end of the year and kind of it's been a lot of work. And I'm really, really thankful for it. But it has been, I also work a full time job. So just like been a total whirlwind. And I'm so thankful. I've learned so much. But I'm going to take a little break at the end of the year. And then I'm putting out probably about 6 more songs next year.
Yeah, at least you're taking a little break, because that sounds like a lot going on.
It is a lot. My
Yeah.
life is a whirlwind.
So I just want to let's do a little rapid fire before we let you go. If that's cool with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Dream venue.
Hmm. One of them is the Mansfield Xfinity Center in Massachusetts, just because that's where I grew up going. And then one of them would be Bridgestone Arena or any of the bigger venues like Ascend Amphitheater or Nissan Stadium here in Nashville.
Dream collaborator.
Ooh, Casey Musgraves
Good one.
or
Uh,
Dirk Bentley.
Ooh, that was a little bit of a curveball, but that's a good one too.
I know, I love him. I'm just like, I've loved him for so long.
You mentioned that you're from Massachusetts, so the biggest mass-holy thing about you.
Oh, let's see. The biggest masshole thing about me. I mean, I'm probably not a great driver, so maybe we'll use that. I'm sure I could find a better.
That's a Massachusetts thing.
Like, we're not even bad drivers, we're just fast drivers.
No, well, I'm from Florida, so we're the opposite.
Slow drivers.
Slow drivers. And then you have the fast one, so it's a nice mix of bad driving.
Honestly, I think that maybe one of the most massholy things about me is that I swear a lot. I just feel like for a girl, I should probably be a little more ladylike. I kind of cuss a lot.
There's nothing wrong with that. Well, that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time for this again.
Absolutely. It's so nice. Are you here in Nashville still?
No.
You're not?
Back home. I'm back home.
Oh, okay. Nice. Well, thanks for taking the time and being patient with me today and asking some great questions.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey y'all, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you liked what you heard from Morgan, be sure to go check her out on social media and go listen to her music wherever you listen to music. If you liked what you heard from the podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening and go check us out on social media at Worlds of Country on all social media platforms. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you guys next week.